Good day and welcome to the 6th edition of the SASI Debate Challenge. This is episode 6. This intellectual battleground is brought to you by Say What with support from the Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe. I am your debate mistress, formerly known as Nicole Natsai Chimanikide, but powerfully known as Nicole. Let the games begin. Before the motion is read out, I will ask the teams all the way starting from my far right, going all the way to my far left, to introduce themselves. Team 1.
Hello, I'm Atherton and I'm Chinhoyi University of Technology.
Hello, my name is Ropa Fadzo from Chinhoyi University of Technology.
Hello, my name is Chechita Gerald from Manicaland State University.
My name is Courtney Shadwana Shejonge from Manicaland State University of Applied Sciences.
I am Dalit Sandlovu from Women's University in Africa.
Hello, and I'm Fadzai from Women's University in Africa.
I'm Tari from Great Zimbabwe University.
And I'm Fian. I'm also from Great Zimbabwe University.
Introductions having been made, the motion reads: This House supports the explicit expressions of female sexuality in the entertainment industry. I will repeat. This House supports the explicit expressions of female sexuality in the entertainment industry. Without further ado, I call upon the Prime Minister of the opening government. Prime Minister, the floor is yours.
Panel, for ages now, patriarchy has controlled and maintained how women express themselves, what womanhood is about, and what womanhood means and what it is about. Now, the definition basically of womanhood has been held by men who themselves know nothing about being a woman, and the goal now when I leave this podium is to make sure that the power of sexuality in women is brought back to women. Now, looking at the meaning of explicit expressions of homosexuality, sexuality, women get to talk about sexual behaviors and processes. They get to talk about their sexual identities, psychological and physiological factors about sex. They get to talk about cultural, political and religious aspects of sex, and they get to do this through movies, music videos, talk shows and interviews, which are regarded as entertainment and still in the media fraternity. And we feel that, and whilst doing this, it has to be done without censorship and also to the proper age ranges with the proper rates is according to the actually media fraternity guidelines. Now, as side government, we believe without reasonable doubt that we need to support women to express themselves freely in the media fraternity for us to be able to actually achieve the things that I'm going to talk about. Now, the first premise of the benefits of this is we get to weaponize female sexuality. Now, women have faced the most judgment in terms of like expressing themselves sexually. They get shamed, they get shunned, and this has a various psychological impact on women in terms of like their self-esteem, how they get to speak out, and how they get to interact with other people. And we feel that this is extremely unfair on behalf of women. We feel are as equal and as important as men. That's why we're actually advocating for their emancipation in this case. Now, our second premise of why we need to support this notion is we get to break the stereotype of sexuality in women, because men have created, actually the patriarchal society has created this ideal woman, the one that sweeps the house, stays at home, remains in very long clothes that are pretty and feeds the kids, etc. But women have other needs outside of that. Of course, we might have women that actually subscribe to that view of womanhood, but we also have another group of women that actually want to express themselves sexually, women that want to be liberated sexually. And when we actually promote this explicit showcase of feminism, of explicit sexuality, we get to not box women in one category, because they are different and they deserve to be celebrated in their differences, because not all women are the same. Now, our third premise in support of this notion is that this brings about sexual emancipation of women. Now, women have been for long regarded to lose things and to lose themselves in terms of like engaging in sexual practices, etc. And we feel that they don't lose anything, just like men do not lose anything. They don't lose their dignity, they don't lose their value through dabbling into their sexuality and expressing themselves and voicing their concerns in terms of like sexual activity. We feel that this needs to be supported because women are as important as men and they need to express themselves as much as men express themselves as well. So this breaks this stereotype and it emancipates the women. We believe that autonomy in women is extremely important, and the only person that can have a problem with this is a person that wants to capitalize on sexuality in women to actually have the power of women's sexuality in men rather than in women, because sexuality has been there, but it's just been owned by men. Now it has to be owned by women. With this, that is my case.
That was the Prime Minister opening the debate for us. We will now move swiftly along to see the argument go forth. I call upon the leader of the opposition to make their case.
Panel. This House opposes the explicit expression of female sexuality in the entertainment industry. This is because, number one, it leads to sexual objectification of women. We are saying that continuous viewing of explicit expression of female sexuality from the entertainment industry portrays an image that women are only good for sex. Now women are now beginning to be viewed as sex objects or just sex toys. We as a delegation believe that women have more to bring to the table than just what's in between their legs. And until that is articulated loudly and clearly stated, we will continue to see a rise in devaluation of women. We will continue to see a rise in the violence against women, because men will not be able to treat women with respect if they're not dignified. And the third thing is the role of women in society will continue to be relegated to the bedroom and not the boardroom. My second point, panel, is creation of sexual predators. Explicit expression of female sexuality in the entertainment industry creates a sexually charged atmosphere, which is a form of soft porn. It is not a secret that wherever there is stimuli, there will be a response. When there is a stimuli of soft porn, the response will be a desire for hardcore porn. This then results, if that desire is then met, we are going to result in a pandemonium ensuing in our society. How, you might ask? We are talking of sexual abuse to minors. We are talking of sexual harassment. You're talking of an increase in rape and incest. My third and final point, panel, is it's not freedom. They came and talked about emancipation, but is it emancipation really? Let's look at the facts. The facts are telling us that being naked and actually being semi-dressed in the entertainment industry is only feeding the sexual desires of men. How, you might ask? A striking 79% of men are the ones that are actually viewing pornographic images on the internet. We are looking at a case where the force undressing the women is actually a force of patriarchy and not the force of femininity. So we cannot be saying that it's emancipation of women. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to also now oppose their first premise, where they talked about shame. You can't be saying that a woman is, you cannot be saying that just because a woman can now come on the stage and be naked, then there will not be shame, right? You talked about how it's not fair for women, it's not fair for men to come and have roles that they are playing in the entertainment industry, whilst women are not being given that equal share. We as a delegation believe that if you actually look at the actual facts, most of the times, even in the music industry, you will find that the women are the ones that are being sexually violated. They are the ones that are not fully dressed. But men in those in the music industry, or men in those particular premises are actually dressed. So you cannot come and say that it's unfair. And then the last and final point that I would want to debate is their third premise. They talked about sexual emancipation emancipation, is it really freedom that they're talking about? It is not freedom. It's actually a trap. It is actually a snare that is enticing women into sexual behaviors that they are thinking is actually freedom when it's not even freedom for them. It's actually putting them at risk of sexual predators, number one. It is also making them sexual objects. And finally, it is also creating a trap for them that they may not be able to live. With this, I've never.
Leader of opposition has made her case. At this point, I believe we should be taking a short break. Stay tuned, and we'll be back with more. Welcome back to the 6th edition of the Debate Challenge, brought to you by Say What, with support from the Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe. Yes, this is the Speak and Solve initiative. At this juncture, I will be calling upon the Deputy Prime Minister from the opening government to make their case.
Ladies and gentlemen, we regret an opposition that thinks that when women express themselves sexually, they can become sexually objectified. Ladies and gentlemen, we see an opposition that actually is giving the perpetrators, the people that are objectifying women, weapons so that they can objectify them. We see a world, or rather we create a world where we de-weaponize people that sexually objectify men by making these things normal. When we make sexual expressions mainstream, we realize that we actually take away the weapons of the perpetrators and actually make it normal. Ladies and gentlemen, we see a child in the 4th Street wearing her miniskirt who gets harassed because of the reason, because wearing a miniskirt has been made a bad thing. We see that harassment in their side of the world, but we don't see that harassment in our side of the world. When we see a safer environment for young women to dress how they want, to freely express themselves, and we think that that's something that we have to take away from side opposition, because we have given men room to oppress us for a very long time. They also talk about how there's creation of predators, ladies and gentlemen, but we see that on their side of the world. On our side of the world, we're telling you about how at the end of the day, we realize that when you post yourself naked, we take away that power of someone to leak your nudes, which is the world that we're living in today, a world that creates shame for those women for being naked, things that are normal, things that are done by men, but when it's done by women, we think that it creates a safer space, a more controlled environment for women to control which content comes in and which content comes out. Because for a very long time, women have been sexually explicit, but it has been at the hands and at the mercy of men, with nudes being leaked, and we don't think that's a good world, and we don't think that's a world that we want to live in. So what we have on our side of the bench, I'll take you later. We tell you about how at the end of the day, we promote psychosocial benefits, right? We think that when women are allowed to do what they want, we see a happier woman, we see a more productive woman, and we feel like that trickles down to a person's academics, to a person's work relationship. We think that we also see something very important. We see that we open boundaries to facilitate effective communications in relationships. When talks about sexual needs and sexual expressions for women, these things have been shut down, and we have seen broken marriages, broken families because of this, because women and men are now going out there, and especially women, we find women that are meeting people and finding the things that they would have wanted to in their own relationship outside of that relationship, because they cannot effectively communicate, because these things are taboo. But when we make these things explicit and they see other women telling their husbands that, no, I like it like this, I don't like it like that, we create an open environment for other women who are married to be able to facilitate effective communications with their husbands. And then we feel that that's very important for a family background, because sex is something that is important in any family, in any crucial family. We also see the promotion of body positivity. We think that the patriarchal society has created these unrealistic beauty standards of slim women who are the models. But in our world, we see these thick women being naked on television and telling other thick women, other obese women, other thick women that, you know what, it's okay to be thick like that, because we realize some people have medical conditions why they cannot lose weight, and we think that these are things that need to be taken into consideration as a world, that not everyone is perfect, not everyone has a slim waist, not everyone has a flat stomach, and some people, they cannot control it, and we're talking about those people that are unable to control it, ladies and gentlemen. We see that in our world, we really recreate an opposition that would think that the sexuality of women compromises the feminist movement. We think that sexuality is something that will walk hand in hand movement with the feminist movement. We've seen strong women in the feminist movement, doctors, we've seen pilots, we've seen we've seen soldiers. We think we need that sexuality aspect. We think feminism is nothing without that sexuality aspect, and we don't think it compromises it in any way. Thank you.
That was the Deputy Prime Minister from the opening government making her statement. We will be moving swiftly on to the clash that she will have with the Deputy Leader of Opposition. Deputy Leader of Opposition, the floor is yours. Make your case.
Panel. This House opposes the explicit expression of female sexuality in the entertainment industry. So, from a detailed perspective, we've come here as a delegation and seen that many men have continued to be portrayed as heroes, whilst women have been considered as sex trophies. In music videos, we have seen men being properly dressed, women being semi-naked. Men are showing off money in videos, whilst women are showing legs, buttocks, to mention a few. In movies, men are heroes, whilst women are trophies that these heroes inherit at the end of the movie. In hip-hop videos, women are clearly called bitches. It has triggered men looking for more money and inspired women trying to be sexual trophies in the society. We do not believe in such a situation, but we've had the situation that we are now seeing, that there is no more inspiration in women becoming doctors, becoming pharmacists, and changing the world for what is it meant to be. So we are saying that as a delegation, we know that the only dream that women will inherit from these movies, from these music videos, will be being sexual trophies. And as long as that stands in the media, women will believe that sleeping with a man will be the only ticket to success, and sexuality is more important than intellectuality. By this, we're saying that as a delegation, we do really believe that we say a firm no, and a firm no, I say this. We are introducing a new revolution based on brains instead of bums. We are saying that as a delegation. We know that the other delegation might come here on podium and ask about women being paid for the jobs. But we're saying that as a delegation. Why is it always the fact that money is coming with honor to men, but at the expense of honor to women? We are saying that as a delegation. We rather believe that women should be properly presented in media. And we've come with the affirmative points. So they came here as too strong and firm and stated their point and said that they are breaking ties of sexuality. We are saying that as a delegation. Women are dominant as household keepers. Women are advocating for wanting to do sex. But here in the panel, the other delegation did not tell us the benefits of women expressing themselves sexually and how it might help them in the fight against patriarchy. We are saying that as a delegation, we want women a 50-50% share with men in terms of representation, be it political, be it social. We are saying that as a delegation. We believe that women should have a 50-50 representation. But we are saying that as a delegation. They came and said to the podium that women are losing themselves through sexual activities. We are saying that as a delegation. Sex is not the best form of women and men being equal. We are saying that there are other forms of professional activities that are out there in the world, be it medicine, be it law. Women can do well in these activities, and we are saying that as delegation. We know that women who excel in this rather than having sex on TV. Having sex on TV will not promote women to be equal to men, but rather will bring and devalue them in the society. And we are advocating as a delegation that women should express their rights through other professional activities rather than sexual activities, through films, through movies. And we are saying that as a delegation with this beg to differ.
Brains before behinds. At this juncture, we will be taking a short break just to deliberate and get to the second half of our argument. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more. Welcome back to the 6th edition of the SASI Debate Challenge. Yes, the Speak and Solve initiative brought to you by Say What with support from the Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe. We are at the half mark of our debate and we'll be moving on to the closing government. A member of government, the time is yours to shine.
First of all, understand that human female sexuality encompasses a broad range of things, from sexual identity to sexual behaviors and sexual processes, be they social, physiological, psychological, political, religious, or even cultural. Now, what do we mean by this? It goes beyond females wanting to have an orgasm during their sexual relationships with their partners. It extends to things like post and pre-birth complications, things like period pain, period poverty that affect them within the sexual spectrum. It even extends to things like various methods of contraception, their physical and psychological after effects, and whether or not they're effective, because these are things that are not currently being explored in media. Even extending to eating habits. For example, when a woman who is pregnant is having cravings. These are all things that encompass or embody the idea of human female sexuality. Even if we look at it from another standpoint, if we're talking about cultural and religious. What is it like for a girl who's religious, for example, Islamic tradition, to have one male partner with 4 sexual females? What are the psychological dynamics of those relationships? Or the example of girls who lose their virginity when they want to get married in a traditional environment, and what that says about their identity within the broader spectrum of society, the stigma they face and the depression that they go through and experience. We even talk about attitudes towards politics. If a girl makes it to a political position, everyone thinks she slept her way to the top. What is the reality of her sexual identity in that environment? Or girls who love to be promiscuous. When men do it, they're seen as playboys and we adore them. When females do it, we use derogative terms to describe their behavior, their personality, and their character, and we degrade them morally. But these are topics that are not explored in media. In media, you have movies about high school boys going to college or university, exploring their sexual prowess in coming-of-age movies. In movies like 50 Shades of Grey or 365 Days, you have the psychological complexities of a man who likes to be dominant in sex and how that avenue makes him dominant in other avenues of his business or his personal life. So male sexuality is already being explored in media, but female sexuality is not, which is why media and entertainment is very important. Entertainment media helps people rationalize. It normalizes concepts. It creates engagement. It humanizes the embodiment of some theories we have, which allows more women to relate when they see it happening on the screen. It creates an opportunity for conversation and engagement. Even if it triggers some audience, that trigger is necessary so that they know that it's an issue that has to be engaged on further. And it challenges existing opinions in society because many of us formulate what we think from what we watch and what we see. So when media takes all these concepts I've spoken about from the dynamic range of what female human sexuality really is supposed to explore, we have a situation in which we enhance the gender mainstreaming efforts that are currently happening in society. So many people know so many things about male sexuality, but most men don't even know that there are different sizes and pads for different females because that has never been explored in a movie. Movies rarely have scenes where a guy has to go into a shop and buy pads for a woman he loves and is protecting that sexual identity. Because the entertainment has excluded that, we only see women in music videos dancing or as trophy wives for James Bond at the end of the movie. That is why they are sexually objectified. So by taking this method, we explore the dynamic and diverse realm of true female sexuality. We normalize it. We counter the sexual objectification currently happening within media and entertainment. And in doing so, we counter the negative effects of the patriarchal stereotype, which has been allowed to exist because most men have never been explored to anything alternative. So remember 3 things from this debate. First of all, female human sexuality is a broad spectrum of all the processes and behaviors associated with females when it comes to sex. 2, media is a powerful tool in influencing opinions, and without it, we allow negative stereotypes to continue existing. And 3, in order to fight the patriarchal mindset, we need to normalize this. We need to engage, and the only way we can do it is by making their sexuality more explicit within the entertainment industry. And for these reasons, we win from closing government.
That was the member of government making his case. I will now call upon the member of opposition to also take the floor and shine.
First, we want to clarify that this debate exists on a practical and status quo basis. We're not looking at this in a theoretical or philosophical basis. Then we also want to clarify what the explicit part of the motion means, because we feel that's something that has not been addressed in this debate. We're talking about such things as portrayal of women, for example, nudity, sexual intercourse scenes involving women. What we got from the opening government were general ideas of emancipation, freedom of expression, and an obvious miscomprehension of the motion. And I'm also going to engage the closing government moving forward. Now, in order for us to tackle this debate, we need to put forward the purpose of female sexuality expression and the problem this poses, and the subsequent reason why we do not support the explicit expression of female sexuality for entertainment purposes. First, we want to frame our argument in terms of how the entertainment industry works. So the goal in this industry is to, besides what you've been made to believe, is viewership and profit maximization. To achieve this, women are accessorized or made to portray sexual roles and imagery. And here's why this, also besides their freedom of choice or freedom of expression, women in this industry do not have much of a choice. They do this for a living. It's a do or die situation, a go big or go home, where you have to be explicitly sexual as per the dictates of a script or industry standards. We think that this creates an irrational and misogynistic criteria of selecting big names in the entertainment industry. And we want a society where these people do not do this because they are induced or because to undue influence, because we think this is very exploitative of the entertainment industry. On our stakeholder analysis, and this is how we differ from opening opposition, we want to take note of the psychological trauma and regret which is associated with such things to females. It goes beyond self-regret really, but poses a greater impact on all the other institutions that a woman as an affiliate of the society has, such as family, such as children, and even the so-called fans whom the entertainment industry seeks to entice. This is so because no matter how bad we deny it, society dictates how people behave and how people live and how people relate to each other, and it holds a superior moral position in our lives. And we feel this explicit expression of female sexuality for entertainment purposes is wrong. It's bad for the actresses, it's bad for the viewers and also their associations. We have kids getting bullied, it destroys families. We have seen this in the likes of Kim Kardashian, Kanye Mbao, to mention a few. What opposition really seeks to address is, let's not brush this away, because the purpose of the entertainment industry is bad enough, but the effect of female sexuality is worse and dire for women. We also think that this kind of content is unempowering. It goes against the values of the social movements which seek to empower and uplift women. We do not really think there are lessons to be deduced from this. We do not see the necessity of such stances because we have women in the entertainment industry who've made it anyway without going nude or sexual in front of a billion people. And we think that the entertainment industry should stop sending across messages that women cannot make it big in the entertainment industry without resorting to explicit sexual expressions. And I think with this, we've justified our case.
And that marks the third quarter of our debate. At this point, we will be taking a short break. Stay tuned and we'll be back with more. Welcome back to the 6th edition of the SASI Debate Challenge. Yes, the Speak and Solve initiative brought to you by Say What with support from the Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe. We are in the last quarter of our debate where we are discussing matters of female sexuality. I will now be calling upon the floor the government whip to give us her case.
So, the opposition has come forth and told us that female sexuality involves objectification of women, but we disagree. When we examine the full extent of female sexuality, we are paving a way for a healthy generation. This is because we allow ourselves to incorporate the previously excluded sides of female sexuality, such as the psychological, cultural, religious, and political aspects. A holistic approach is definitely empowering because it paves way for social inclusion. The opposition also mentioned that entertainment industry profits off of female sexual exploitation, but we also can put forth a point that you can make female sexuality interesting in movies while it's still profiting. That is by engaging all the previously excluded aspects of it. This is why we promote explicit expression of female sexuality, because we care about gender mainstreaming efforts and we want to add on to its contribution to female empowerment initiatives. We sense an increase in female sexual objectification due to it being embraced only in part, defined in part, and addressed in part. There is a danger in a single story, and we propose that we tell all of it. We express and embrace female sexuality in all its psychological, spiritual, cultural, and political form. When we do this, we eliminate the stereotypes surrounding female sexuality which lead to negative labeling and objectification of women. We create safe spaces to address, assess, and monitor how the world impacts and is impacted by female sexuality. The entertainment industry is, without a doubt, a powerful communication tool. And as leaders, as the government, we are proposing that this entertainment industry be utilized as a tool to positively change the narrative around female sexuality, because for such a long time we've only had a myopic point of view towards female sexuality. What about the other complex and dynamic aspects of female sexuality? So because of its dynamic and comprehensive nature, we propose that we do not dismiss the other sides and the most important sides of female sexuality, which include the biology, the physical, the psychological, the social, the cultural. We are saying that make it holistic, because when we look at something from a holistic point of view, we're able to see the bigger picture. But if we nitpick the parts that we want to focus on, if we look at the nudity, if we look at sexual exploitation, we are taking away from such a large source of information we could benefit from if we really honed in to the deep issues surrounding and influencing female sexuality, such as culture, politics, psychology, and religion. With this, we make our case.
That was the government whip making her case. The last speaker of this debate I will call to the floor, the closing opposition whip.
Okay, panel, so before I summarize this debate from closing opposition, I'd like to first of all clarify on why exactly closing government takes forth within this debate. We think that closing government loses this debate when they forget that explicit is a term that is actually in the motion, and they focus on exploration of female or male sexuality on political and social and so forth aspects, right? We think that this is not the debate, because we believe that we don't mind exploring female sexuality, right? We don't mind because that these are things that already exist, like in schools or institutions, right? It's already explored. There are so many other platforms for it to be explored. They miss the debate where they don't engage on the idea of why it's so necessary for it to be explicitly explored, right, in the entertainment industry, right? But then they give us like these examples about 50 Shades of Grey and so forth, and how it explores male sexuality only, right? But you see that for the majority of the movie, the person who was mainly naked in that movie was the woman, right? And that at the end of the day is some sort of objectification. And we tell you that there was backlash from that movie, right, for that particular actress. And my partner also goes to give you status quo on how exactly those particular negative impacts, those backlashes, right, are going to affect that particular actress, right, on a social scale, but also on an individual and personal scale. And this is why CG lost this debate. But on opening government, we get this idea that women are now in control and they dictate what exactly society gets to see, therefore they get to express themselves and they're emancipated, right? First of all, we don't think that having a standard of decency is a form of like oppression, right? Because when a society has standard of decency and they dictate what people are supposed to wear and how to look, right, we don't think that's a form of expression, because it also applies to men, and it's not just men that dictate what happens. Even the women themselves also teach themselves how to wear certain things. We see this even in the African cultural setup, and it's not a form of oppression, right? But also they tell us that women are going to be in control. But then we look at who exactly still remains in power of this entertainment industry. It's still the men. Therefore, the patriarchal control still exists in the entertainment industry, where the men are dictating how exactly a woman should act, whether a woman should go strip naked and act a sexual scene, right? We don't think that is something that is necessary. We don't think that it serves any greater purpose for the education or emancipation of women that they were saying, but rather it's an exploitative means for the entertainment industry. And my partner gives you a full clarity and analysis of how exactly the entertainment industry works and why it is an industry, like any other economic industry, that mainly focuses on profit and has no regard for the people that it harms in the process. And we tell you exactly the harmful effects that are associated with explicit sexual expression of women, right? But then from OO, and why we differ from OO, we tell you about the stakeholder analysis. I'll take you.
Can you comment on the fact that when women get into this industry, they are well aware of the effects that it might bring about, and I don't think that they frankly care?
Okay, we think that this is a very weak point of information, right? Why? Because when you look at status quo, we have a majority of individuals that have done these particular things that end up regretting them. We tell you about people like Kim Kardashian, who go on to tell you that, okay, fine, when I modeled for Playboy, I regret that particular decision because I was young, I was naive, and I was seeking fame, right? But it's something that goes on to traumatize them for the rest of their life. We tell you about people like Kanyimba, who get backlash, right, for the scenes that they act in this in the entertainment industry, in the promotion of female sexuality and being able to teach expression and so forth, right? We tell you about the stakeholder analysis. We give you an example of how exactly this is going to affect the actresses themselves when how their careers are going to suffer backlash from the society, right? And we also tell you about the people that are associated with them, which is their families. We tell you about their children going to be bullied at school, right? Because images of their mother are so awash on social media, right? And they're going to be bullied for that particular fix, but they don't consider these particular consequences because at that particular point in time, they're still only worried about getting fame, right? So this idea that is enforced in the entertainment industry is that of go big or go home, or if you don't get naked, right, if you don't do a sex scene, you're not going to make it, right? Which is fallacy, because at the end of the day, we see that a majority of actresses make it without actually like having to go naked, right, or doing those things. But people are manipulated into believing that this is how to make it big and so forth, and we believe that this is something that is not necessary and serves no purpose that is positive within the society. With this, you're not being more proud to oppose. Thank you.
That was the closing opposition whip, and at this point, with debate having been made and cases having been brought forth, we will be taking a short break. Stay tuned and we'll be back with more. Welcome back to the 6th edition of the SASI Debate Challenge. Yes, the Speak and Solve initiative brought to you by Say What with support from the Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe. We have been discussing, or rather the debate is over, but we've been discussing that this house supports the explicit expression of female sexuality in the entertainment industry. Brains before behinds. Second podium. Explain further.
Alright, basically we're saying that a woman has more to offer than just what her body has. She has her intellect, and she should be given an opportunity to show that she has the intellect as well and make an impact in the society using her brain and not her behind.
I love the alliteration there. Podium 1, how did you feel about the debate?
Well, I think one important aspect about the female movement generally is we need to appreciate how it is very many departments. It is one department for education, women in power, women in business, and it doesn't mean that if like women in power, the Department of Women in Power is important, it doesn't mean that like sexuality should be neglected. It should be as important as the other departments, which I feel is very important.
I hear you. So many facets, but how do you feel?
I feel good.
You feel good? You feel confident? No nerves whatsoever?
No nerves. This was interesting. It was the toughest, but it was the most interesting actually.
Do you see? She said, you speak for yourself. You are trying to represent her. Speaker say. Podium 3, how do you feel?
We're alright. We're alright.
And then we're alright. Is that not contradictory?
I'm taking a deep breath.
You're taking a deep breath.
Finally.
Finally,
we can have an easy conversation.
I feel curious because this motion made me realize just how much of human female sexuality isn't explored in a public space. So I'm wondering how much we don't know, because most of us are informed from movies rather than actual educational systems.
You're saying WAP, you're saying 365 days don't explore it fully. What wasn't explored in those movies?
What hasn't been explored are concepts like date rape, concepts like what it's like to be a woman in an Islamic tradition with 4 other wives and 1 husband, and whether or not you're sexually satisfied. We have never seen a movie about that, but that is an integral part of human female sexuality.
There's more to be said. Podium 4, how do you feel?
I'm alright.
You're just alright.
Yeah, it felt like we were talking about completely different things. Yeah.
Sir,
But I'm alright.
how did you feel?
A bit nervous.
A bit?
Yeah.
Nervous?
Yes.
Nervous, okay. Call 577 if you need any psycho-social support at this juncture. We will be calling the judges to deliver their results. Chief Adjudicator.
Okay, thank you so much for that lovely debate. Unanimously, we thought the debate was very engaging, very exciting, very good ideas shared by all teams. So what I will do first is give the rankings. So in first position, we have team opening government. In second position, we have team closing opposition. That is Great Zimbabwe University. First is CARD. And then in third, we have closing government. And then in fourth, we have opening opposition. So what I'll do is talk about the issues that were there in the debate and how each team wins that particular issue, right? The first issue is, what is the role of media in the portrayal of these narratives, right? CG says, listen, we think that, so like how ECG engages, let me start with the team that gets fourth first, right? So why we think you can't rank above any other team, even like across most of the themes that we thought were the most important in the debate, is I think you start well in your characterization of what objectification really looks like and how that could be harmful. But the major question that is asked throughout the debate is why women cannot reclaim that power, why women cannot reclaim the power of nudity, the power of sexuality, and make it theirs, and why that particular onus is necessarily on women to change narratives, to protect them, and not to objectify them. You are asked a simple question, like earlier in the debate, when they say, listen, children still get raped, right, even though they don't strut around naked, right? Because really, when men want to objectify you, they're still going to objectify you, whether there are nudes out there or whether you particularly don't have some sort of narrative that you're spreading on media. So I thought you were supposed to do a little bit more in analyzing, like just showing why in your framing, right, that inspiration has been lost on women to attain all these things, because, well, women are doing really well even with that portrayal. So there was some logic conclusion gap in your analysis as to why, particularly all the harms that you identify are explicitly because of the portrayal of women's sexuality in media. So we thought that those are ideas that are not really engaged in opening opposition, and hence it was so difficult to rank you above any other team, because most of that engagement happens, especially with the other 3 teams, right?
We will indeed take 2 things from this debate. WAP didn't do enough, and brains before behinds. All cases having been made and the results having been brought to us, this marks the end of the 6th episode of the 6th edition of the SASI Debate Challenge, brought to you by Say What, with support from the Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe. I am your debate mistress, formerly known as Nicole Natsai Chimanikire, but powerfully known as .nicole.co.nicole. Until next time.